This is season 2, episode 10. We have an interesting movie, I would say, and I believe that the guys would agree with me on this one. But I'm going to let Ricky take this away because he purchased this movie, and it's his fault that we watched it.
So this week we watched Dark Wolf. For those who watched the full episode last week, I went over, read the back of it, read these little taglines. But for those of you who did not watch the end of last week's episode, I'm going to do the same thing now. So on the front, you have a tagline and a little quote. So half man, half beast, pure evil is the top tagline. And then the little quote at the bottom, horrifyingly hip and wickedly sexy. Okay. And then on the back, you got another tagline, under a full moon, true terror begins. But to read the synopsis that's written on the back, a new breed of horror roams the streets of Los Angeles. It's the Dark Wolf, a vicious werewolf with a thirst for blood and a lust for Josie, a sexy, unsuspecting woman with a mysterious power she is only beginning to understand. Once the Dark Wolf catches Josie's scent, nothing can stop his insatiable hunger to mate with her. He'll kill anyone who gets in his way. If I were going to give this movie a tagline, it would be gratuitous nudity and horrible CGI. That would be my tagline.
Yeah.
I mean, the opening scene of the movie is tits everywhere. Now, granted, who doesn't love tits? I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care what you identify as. You love titties. We all love titties. So that's the highlight of this movie is titties. There's nothing else to enjoy. I mean, if you're interested in men, you get to see Kane Hodder's ass. So there you go. So I guess they got a little bit of everything. Oh, man. Matt, how'd you feel about it?
I didn't hate it. I didn't necessarily love it either, but there was some stuff that I enjoyed with it. I hated the CGI, I'll say that. Some of the after effects I liked, like the practical effects of the bodies and everything. I thought they did a good job with that. For a moment, I thought I liked the wolf until they showed you too much of it. And then it got really goofy. But I this is like right in the middle of the road for me. It's not the best story, but I'm also a sucker for a werewolf movie. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Silver Bullet is probably my favorite, and it's not the best werewolf movie either. There's a lot of cheesy aspects in that as well. So I would say it's not the easiest thing to do a movie of. But like I said, Kane Hodder, it was decent movie for him. Other than Friday the 13th and maybe the Hatchet series, what's Kane Hodder done that's like great? Alligator 2. So I mean, we're kind of, you're getting him doing something a little bit different than just a big, like, bulky Jason walking around killing people. He gets to actually, I guess, play a biker, just a big bulky biker. So really, I mean, same kind of thing. But yeah, middle of the road movie for me. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm about right there with you. I try and think of Kane Hodder, and you try and think of other things that he's done. Yeah, he's not a face character, and that's why he's a stuntman, and he's Jason Voorhees, and he's Victor Crowley in the Hatchet movies, because he's not. He doesn't have, even as a big tough guy, he doesn't have a tough face at all to me. When there's a section in the movie where he's standing in the background of a reporter, and then all of a sudden his eyes turn red and like someone highlighted him over on top of the film. And it's the most like non-menacing looking thing I've ever seen. I wouldn't be scared of that at all. I think I'd be more scared of him and his flat ass that was coming at me later on in the movie when you have naked Kane Hodder. And I love how then after the transformation happens, he had clothes on again. He would be naked beforehand, or when they transformed, they both would be completely clothed, transform and like meld into naked wolves, and then transform back into clothes. I was like, I don't see how this is working at all. But the movie itself was not not very good. I keep comparing it, as I said to both of these guys before we started this episode, to our Angel of the Night episode, which was only just a few back, and it felt really similar in the terrible style of acting, the early like 2000s kind of feel of the cuts and the weird zooms and things like that. But my problem was I didn't laugh as much with this movie. I just looked at it and went, fuck, that's bad. With Angel of the Night, I laughed quite a bit. I was having a great time. That the overdubbing was terrible. The lines were super terrible in that movie. This, I kind of feel like they tried with certain things at least, and they just couldn't execute it very well. Again, as Ricky said, it's just tits the entire movie. There's a scene eventually in the middle of the movie where two girls are in a photo shoot and they get painted up as werewolves, and there's just humping each other really at certain points of that, and it goes on for way too long. And that's saying something from a guy that's okay with watching that kind of thing. It just goes on for way too long. It's pointless. I don't get it at all. So if I was to pick a werewolf movie to watch, this wouldn't be the one. I'll tell you that. If it's your first time watching it and you've never seen, like I said, you've never seen it before and you want to test it out, go for it. Have a blast and try and watch it. But I didn't care for it too much. Ricky, you want to go into a little bit of what the movie's about and how it progressed and things like that?
Well, from what I gathered, okay, so there's a detective that's really close friends with the protector. Her name is Mary. It's actually played by Tippi Hedren. For those who aren't familiar with her name, she was the star of The Birds in the 60s, the classic Alfred Hitchcock. But she's part of this group that's been protecting like the non-murderous werewolves for 9 centuries. And she has a book that like goes through all the stuff. And so come to find out, the waitress at the little diner that she's sitting outside of, because she needs to be near this girl, she is a werewolf, and she hasn't found out yet, but Mary knows, and she's trying to protect her. And we find out that if the waitress touches someone, the scent transfers, and the dark wolf, Kane Hodder, goes hunting after that scent because he's chasing after her to mate, to, I'm assuming, carry on the bloodline of the werewolves. And he just does not give up until he finds her. So basically, you don't want this girl touching you. But the waitress brings Mary dinner because she's under the impression that Mary's a homeless lady. And before she can say anything, she grabs Mary's hand. So there's the scent transfer. Dark Wolf comes along, kills Mary. And before Mary dies, she tells the detective, what was his name? Turley, I believe was his name, Turley. She tells him the situation so he can become her protector. And basically it's just Dark Wolf hunting this girl down and killing everybody that she comes in contact with. But yes, to talk about the thing that you mentioned, Tom, the red eyes. God, that was bad. So bad. It was not well done. I understand what they were trying to do. It just didn't translate well. And the bad thing about watching movies from this era, the late 90s, early 2000s, when CGI was really becoming prominent before it was perfected, which it still hasn't been perfected, but it's much better. Like, my gut wants to say, don't do it. Use practical effects until it's perfected. But at the same time, that's kind of like telling a musician, hey, don't put out any of your shitty music until you get good. It's like, no, you got to get your name out there and let people know who you are, see your work. Kind of a catch-22 there. But yeah, it was bad. It was bad. The transformations from human to wolf were very bad. I will say the sound effects, as far as like the growls and all that stuff, those were very well done. It was kind of in that middle ground between human and wolf, kind of like merging the two. They did well with that, I thought. Um, the practical shots were done really well, as far as like when after the transformation happens and they zoom in on the wolf's face. It looked really good, I thought. The after effects of the murders, I mean, the blood and the gore looked good. But I wish we would have gotten, I say this, but it probably would have been a bad thing to get it, but some full shots of attacks, because they were all really close up, right in the face. But I think if we would have got full body based on the era, it would have been real bad. So I guess we just got to take what we got with it. Matt, is there anything that stood out to you that you really enjoyed that you wanted to bring up?
Oh, well, I think you mentioned most of it. Like I said a little while ago too, I enjoyed the practical effects with the bodies. Some of the kills in it I thought were actually pretty good as far as how they executed them. Wasn't too over the top. I enjoyed like the flying limbs, like when someone get their arm ripped off, they'd throw it against the wall, kind of like they would do back in the day with blood spatter when it hit the window. So this would be like a body piece. There was the mauling of the boyfriend. I thought that looked cool as well when he gets him by the throat. It wasn't like so zoomed out that you could see everything, but it was, you know, enough. I got enough of the idea of what was happening, and I enjoyed that as well. The one that shocked me was probably the first kill when they dragged the dude through the back of the truck. Um, that kind of really set the tone for me because when they open the door and you just see like that mess of a body, I was like, oh, so this is going to be a pretty like gory, violent movie. And for the most part, it was. So I enjoyed the practical effects. I thought they were good. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the sound. The story I thought was kind of convoluted, and I know we can go into that in a little bit when we start talking about dislikes. But I like the length of the movie too. I think that they could have honestly wanted to drag this out way longer and could have, and we would have been real miserable. But I appreciate the 90s and the early 2000s for the fact that they're like an hour and a half tops. That's what we need. We're not going to go much further than that. So yeah, I thought they nailed the length too. Tom, what do you think?
That's very true. A lot of movies nowadays definitely are very long. Did either of you guys see that Beau is Afraid by Ari Aster?
Not
No,
yet.
I want to though.
That movie was over 3 hours long, and it was brutal, man. Watching that in a movie theater, and there's so much going on, but also so much that you just don't understand going on, that it was a long 3 hours. But it is nice to go back to an hour and a half movie or even shorter. I don't mind that whatsoever.
Yeah.
As you said, the first kill was cool when he was, the other cop. There was a cop in the front seat of a truck. The werewolf was in the back of this big old truck, broke through the back of it, pulled them through. That was great. They went to the police station directly afterwards, and the partner of the cop that was killed now has a new partner, this lady. He's explaining to her that werewolves exist, and she's like not believing it because, hey, who would believe that werewolves exist? But his patent line for that was, werewolves exist, get over it. And I thought that was some quality writing.
Yeah.
The other bit of storyline that made me, I can't say if I hated it or enjoyed it because it was so stupid and made absolutely no sense, was later on in the movie when the werewolf is searching for the girl, and he ends up going to this photographer's house where the girl is and her friends are, and she's touched them all, so he's going to get them, blah blah blah. They call the cop that knows who the werewolf is, and they go, here, tell him where we are, right? And excuse me, the boyfriend goes, oh, we're in the warehouse across from my apartment. And the guy who doesn't know who those people are goes, I know where that is. It's like, fucking, how do you know where that is? You don't even know who those people are. You know that they're friends with this person. You've never met them. You don't know where they live. How do you know where this warehouse is? I was sitting next to Nikki and literally just went, how the fuck? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. There's no way he knows where that is. So, quality, continuity, and writing there. I don't think there's, I'm just going to go straight into things I didn't like. I don't think there's anything that like glaring that you guys haven't mentioned that that I didn't like. The CGI, like we said, Matt mentioned that it looked like Lawnmower Man CGI. It was very much like, a PS1 game kind of transformations. And even when the main actress goes through her change, the very first change she does, I'm okay with. It's actually in the intro of these videos. It's not bad. It's all practical. She falls in and out of a bathtub, so you can't tell when she's adding more makeup or not adding more makeup. And I was fine with that. The second time when she's a whole body transformation, it's just her head and she has a lot of hair. Yeah. And she's stark naked. So she to me, she looked like a Cro-Magnon like woman that you would see drawings of or something. Just a ton of hair and a big furrowed brow. She barely looked like a wolf at all. And again, having only hair on her head and back and nothing here, just so they can continue to show her boobs, made no sense to me. I guess the sense is to see the boobs, but it didn't work. Kane Hodder, again, like Matt said, you don't see him in full werewolf form very much at all. It's very close-ups of his head, which a lot of times are kind of bad, especially when he has like the little blinking eyes every once in a while. It's just a close-up of his eye, and it's like, and it even makes noise when it blinks. And I'm like, I don't think we make noise when our eyes blink. Like, why is that happening? The one scene that I thought was funny with him was when you saw his whole body running down a hallway, and it was just this CGI blob of like the butt of a wolf trying to run down a hallway. That it was great, in the worst way as possible. But yeah, so the movie's not very good. It's not very good. I'm trying to think of something else that's worth talking about that I can think of, and I don't have it. I don't. Ricky, was there anything that stood out to you that you thoroughly disliked that we haven't talked about?
I mean, really the only thing that I disliked that hasn't been mentioned already, like when we get most of our slasher movies, like your Freddy, your Jason, your Michael, your Terrifier, whatever, they don't necessarily come out and say a way to kill this entity, person, whatever you want to say. So there's always the possibility that they're going to come back. Well, in this one, they give a definite way to get rid of this dark wolf. A silver bullet straight through the eye gets rid of the wolf. Yeah, no, at the end of the movie, you find out that doesn't work at all. So I'm glad I haven't done any research, but I don't think there's a sequel to this movie. And I will say I'm glad there is not, because we don't need more of it. I think what we got out of it, that's more than what you needed. But yeah, I mean, I typically enjoy your werewolf movies, but I mean, I like your American Werewolf in London, which the transformation in that is probably one of the best of all time as far as practical effects go. That transformation is fantastic. I mean, the Underworld series, I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I like werewolf movies in general. This just is not even close to top tier as far as werewolf movies go. The story wasn't interesting. CGI was bad. Kane Hodder, I mean, when he's not just playing a silent, menacing slasher, he's not the best actor. I mean, I'm not going to recommend watching it, but he did play Ed Gein in a movie about 15 years ago, something like that, and it was not very good. If you want to watch an Ed Gein movie, watch the one with Steve Railsback. He actually did a fairly good job playing a creepy, odd something missing up here. He did well with it, but Kane did not. Kane is also about 3 times bigger than Ed Gein, Tiny Ed, because Ed Gein was probably about 5'6", 120 pounds, and Kane Hodder's about 7 foot tall. Yeah, so I mean, Kane's not a great actor, but we love him for what he is. He's a big menacing terror that has some of the best on-screen kills of all time, not including this movie. Oh man. But Matt, is there anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the story and how it was kind of just not great. I didn't like the pattern of which people died. I think that in a lot of these movies, there's a pattern that you kind of see. Like, okay, they killed the officer's, uh, friend, his partner, and then they bring in this new girl who was actually there the whole time to replace him. So immediately I'm like, oh, okay, well, she's going to be in this for the long haul, right? So she gets bit. Okay. And then immediately I'm like, okay, well, she got bit. Now she's going to become a werewolf. It's going to be kind of cool. It's going to spread a little bit, make things a little more interesting. No, brutally murdered in the hospital. And that threw me off guard. Like, I was like, oh, what the heck? Like, this person should be playing this role in my mind. And then now you have the detective and you have the werewolf girl too. So I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be them too. And then they're going to introduce a bunch of other people to kill. They kill her boyfriend. Her best friend lives, who I think should have died. The photographer lives, who I think should have died. And then, there was too many people who lived at the end of this movie. And I think it's probably budget reasons. If I had to guess, they probably didn't have the money to do the special effects to kill most of these people. And saying that, I would probably cast less people. But yeah, I don't, it was kind of convoluted in all the people that they added into this and how many people were still alive at the end. I definitely would have killed some of these people off camera for sure, at least. But I mean, maybe that's just me being crazy, but that's one of the things that I didn't necessarily like about it. Like Ricky said too, with the shooting through the eye was the definite way to kill the dark wolf, and it didn't work. And maybe that's the fact that they don't have any idea on where they could go for a second movie, but they want to leave it open because it sounds like the Dark Wolf is like 1 in a million chances. Like, has this guy been roaming the earth forever? Or was he recently born? Like, how do you become a dark wolf? Are you born into it and he's just the last one for, you know, ages? Or what's the deal with this? I would have made it a way that someone else could have been the dark wolf, and then if they wanted to, they could have extended this movie into another one without, bringing Kane Hodder back. Now, was this before he played Jason or after?
After.
This is okay, because I thought it was, but I was curious, like, maybe he just didn't sign back on because he was doing better movies. Maybe he was doing Victor Crowley at this point and had no reason to come back for another one.
It would have been right around that time frame because he played Jason late 80s, early 90s. He did because he did Manhattan and Goes to Hell, right?
Yeah.
So that would be 80s, early 90s. And then the Hatchet trilogy, I want to say the first one was 05, and I think this movie was 2003.
Huh? Yeah. So
2002. So 3 years later, he came across Victor Crowley.
Maybe they anticipated doing another one with him, and he just won't because Victor Crowley. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not going to rant anymore. Those are just some of the things that my crazy mind thinks of when I'm like, oh, I dislike that movie. Tom, you got anything to add?
Well, as you said with the shot in the eye situation towards the end of the movie, when he first hands her a gun, it is the most like holding a gun like this, and she can barely hold on to it because it looks like it's too heavy for her to hold, and being able to shoot a werewolf as it's like you're laying on the ground and it's jumping towards you and you're able to shoot it in the eye from probably the first time ever holding a gun or ever shooting a gun, that's for sure. It's just fucking ridiculous. Like, let's be honest here. And to show him alive at the end of it, it's a lazy. Like there's no wonder to it. There's no nothing. It's just like, oh nope, we can do it more. We can do more. It's a shock. Oh my god, he's alive. No, it's stupid. Like you're wasting our time. Don't do that. If show that he bit someone and didn't kill them and turned them into a dark wolf, like Matt's saying, to progress it into somebody else or something like that. You know, it's one thing if it's a character like Art the Clown, like we're talking about, that can completely just die, and he come back to life. He's not a person. We know that's not a person. That's some weird fucking thing that's going on there. If a werewolf has a way to die and that way happens, then it's fucking over. Get over it. That's just what it's done. You can't write lore and then just throw it out the window, because then it just makes your whole movie stupid. It's like a lot of zombie movies. They'll tell you this is what happens, this is what happens, this is what you need to do it. And they'll do that, and some zombies won't die that way. And it's like, wait a second, you just wrote it out for us that is a thing. And it's not like you're making it a twist, because you're not like, oh, this was a super zombie or some shit like that. You just didn't follow your own rules that you established in your movie. We're not stupid. Your movie is stupid. Follow your own rules if you're going to write them. Otherwise, just don't explain it. You know, say, oh, I have silver bullets. It should kill werewolves. Great. If it doesn't, oh, he's a crazy werewolf. Don't say, hey, if you shoot him in the eye, he will die, and then he doesn't die. Like, come the fuck on.
Yeah.
Anyways, don't watch this movie. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say that. Don't waste your time. I don't have anything positive to say that it was worth watching. It wasn't bad enough to be funny. It slightly annoyed me at times. You can watch boobs on many other things to make it worth your time instead of doing this. And again, Kane Hodder is not attractive naked, and I feel comfortable saying that. He is a very large, square-shaped man with a small butt. It was nothing to write home about. So, in saying that, I'm gonna flat out give this movie a 1.5 star rating, because I would never watch it again, and I really don't recommend someone else wasting their time. Ricky, what would you give this movie?
I already had 1.5 in my head before you even started. The only reason I'm going to give it a 1.5, because normally I'm fairly ruthless with these movies, that I have no qualms giving a 0 or a 0.5, but out of respect for whomever did the practical effects, they did a good job on those. So I gotta give them a little bit of credit here. But yeah, as far as anything else, there's no other redeeming qualities. As Tom said, if you want to go see titties, there's multiple websites you can go to without having to put yourself through this. But yeah, for the practical effects alone, I'm going to give it a 1.5. Matt, what do you got?
I'm going to go a little bit higher and go to 2. Just because practical effects and because it's a werewolf movie. I'm a sucker for werewolf movies, so I'll watch any werewolf movie thrown my way. So I'm a 2.
It's a beautiful reason. Beautiful reason.
Yeah.
There's definitely reason or genres of movies that I'll do the exact same thing with. I can't think of one at the moment in time, but yeah, totally. I totally get that. So now let's roll. Even I've been playing D&D recently. Let's spin the wheel to find out what we're going to watch for episode 11. And if I'm not mistaken, we have one movie left that Matt chose, and the rest of them are Ricky's, which are only 2, so it's not a whole lot. Season's almost over. Ridiculous. We took like a little 3-month-ish break in the middle of doing these, so I hope you still stick around and watch these every once in a while. But we're going to try and finish this out strong. So episode 11, even though it says episode 10, don't look at that, is The Fly 2, which is Matt's last movie. I don't know how any of us have never seen The Fly 2. I own it on, I think, multiple formats, and still have not watched it. So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too. I love the Jeff Goldblum Fly. So I'm curious to see where this one goes.
Yeah, without Jeff Goldblum, it's kind of scary, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably why I've not watched it, because, you know, I know he's not in it, but it was the cover was cool enough that I bought it. And I have it on Blu-ray too. So yeah, I got the box set, and I was like, oh, VHS Fly 2, $1.52, but I'll take that for sure. So yeah, we'll see.
Perfect.
Yeah. There's two reasons I've never watched The Fly 2. One, because Jeff Goldblum's not there. Also, it's not Cronenberg. And once I found out Cronenberg wasn't involved, I was like, Cronenberg made The Fly. Cronenberg and Goldblum.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. But until then, thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching another episode of Moving Picture Massacre. If this is your first time, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like the video, all of those things that we tell you every single week, and come back for to watch more movies with us, because we have a bunch that we've never seen before, and we're excited to watch them and talk about them with you guys. So thank you again, and we will see you guys next time.